missiles. This is a moment in time for Ukraine to try to seize that back, seize his attention back, and sort of convince him to, I guess, see things more from Ukraine's perspective, from NATO's perspective. So I guess part of the thing that they have to do today, and some of the Ukrainian objectives, is to seize on this unique moment in time. You've got a U.S. president who's just coming off of this enormous win in the Middle East. Donald Trump has talked about, he's ended 6, 7, 8 international conflicts. He wants to make this number 9, he said. And so Zelenskiy can come in and try to pull a little bit on that momentum. And while he has the president's attention, try to keep him focused on this particular conflict. Ukraine is seeking, obviously, more material support, more military pressure on Ukraine at this moment. And really, these are sort of the objectives that they have going into this meeting. And again, it really is about trying to seek more armaments, something that can really help them with their strategy right now.
And armaments, a key part of that is Ukraine's desire for missiles, right?
Yes, the Tomahawks. Yeah. Okay, so these are these long-range, powerful missiles. They can go 1,600 kilometers deep inside Russia. And you have to realize at this moment in time, the Ukrainian strategy has really shifted to really more of hitting Russia in those sort of energy areas, infrastructure. And it's a little different from what they were doing at the beginning of the war. Those initial attacks on energy infrastructure were described more as pinpricks, whereas what they have done lately is really take out larger oil refineries within Russia with, in some cases, their own homegrown drones. So these Tomahawks, as far as Ukraine sees it, could really be a game changer for them. And at the same time, though, there is this interesting thing happening within that phone call last night with Putin, where Donald Trump has been musing for some time about giving these Tomahawks to Ukraine. And he sort of floated that in front of Putin in the phone call reportedly last night. And he said that obviously Vladimir Putin didn't like that idea very much. An interesting thing to do, but it sort of also suggests why it is that Putin called the U.S. president at this moment. There's some strategy going on here from Russia. To that, I would point to former Ukrainian Prime Minister Ernst who sort of talked about what it is Russia's calculation in this moment may be ahead of this meeting with Zelenskyy, and why it is that phone call happened last night. Here's that clip.
The only reason why Putin reached out to Trump is that he wants to avoid sanctions. He wants to actually get the similar result that he had in Anchorage. He wants to postpone the decision of the United States to provide the long-range missiles to Ukraine. And he actually wants to make some kind of another chaos. We know all these KGB-style stunts and tricks. And that's what Putin is doing right now.
So is this a stalling tactic? You do remember that meeting in Anchorage. Donald Trump walked away from that promising some sort of bilateral, trilateral meeting between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine, which never did materialize. But it did buy Russia more time. And so the question here, is this going to postpone any kind of eventual decision from the U.S. to either sell or provide in some way Ukraine with more of a powerful long-range arsenal?
And Trump mused also about meeting Putin again in Hungary in a couple of weeks.
Exactly, yeah. And so, again, those details yet to really sort of materialize, but agreeing to have another one of these discussions. It's an interesting move after coming away with nothing out of Anchorage.
Let's talk a little bit about, because I think the first Volodymyr Zelenskiy meeting in the White House in this new Trump administration was unforgettable for, I think, people around the world, because it was Trump really, it was a shakedown. Trump was very upset with Zelenskyy. People remember that, and it sort of evolved, though, where there's been a warming of the relationship between Trump
Yeah,
and
and
Zelensky.
it's over time, and with an awful lot of help from friends in Europe, in European Union, NATO. I think about to August when everybody sort of came to Washington. A number of European leaders sort of accompanied. I remember some of the press at the time referring to Giorgia Meloni as a European bodyguard for Zelensky at that time. It was really a united front to really send a message to the American president. We are all with Ukraine on this. And even before that, I think about the Pope's funeral, that was really the first sort of meeting that they had after that unforgettable blow up, a diplomatic disaster really back in February. And there was a sort of a sideline chat at that time. A lot of interventions have been happening, and a sort of a strategic softening in Zelenskyy's approach to how he speaks to the president as well. Always making sure in these public comments, the first thing he does is very robustly thank the president and America for what it is doing for Ukraine throughout this. And I would note, Andrew, an interesting sort of note of maybe a slight sort of defrost in what's going on. Zelensky stayed at Blair House, which is the official guest house of the White House, last night, and he did not stay there on his last two visits during this sort of administration. So that could mean something. Maybe it doesn't mean that much at all, but it's a small thing, a small diplomatic sort of nicety.
I'm sure Trump will notice whatever he's wearing, too. And that seems to be important to the U.S. president. Katie, thank you. The CBC's Katie Nicholson. And let's stay on this story and bring in Maria Popova. She's an associate professor of political science at McGill University and the co-author of Russia and Ukraine, Entangled Histories, Diverging States. And she joins us now from Montreal. Maria, I appreciate you taking the time. As always, thank you. President Trump has shifted his approach towards Ukraine after renewed talks with President Putin. What do you make of that?
Well, as Katie Nicholson mentioned, Trump tends to channel what the last person he talked to said, and that's, I think, all there is to the rhetorical shift of the last 24 hours. Overall, I think since Anchorage, things are going better for Ukraine. The Ukrainian president really is superb at diplomacy, and he has managed to turn things around in terms of the relationship with Trump. And also, I think Trump has noticed that Putin is giving him the runaround for 9 months already. So, overall, I think things are okay right now.
So okay, but what kind of a meeting do you think Zelensky can expect today?
I mean, it's a risky meeting. He will have to be very, very careful in how he plays this, because of course he wants to impress on Trump two things. The first one is that Russia is not winning on the battlefield, so there is no reason to make concessions to Russia when in fact Russia is very much stalled. Its summer offensive failed. It's not really advancing. And I think that's important to Trump's thinking, because his thinking about why he wanted to press Ukraine into concessions was, he always repeated, well, Ukraine is losing anyway, Russia never loses, etc. So I think Zelensky will really try to keep Trump's attention on the fact that Russia is not winning, and Ukraine has a chance right now with the Tomahawk missiles to make a really bigger difference on the battlefield, force Russia into negotiations from a position of strength rather than from a position of weakness. And so this will be Zelensky's goal, and let's see how far he succeeds with it.
Do you think this ongoing engagement with President Putin just yesterday, that long phone call, including a planned summit in Budapest in the next couple of weeks, according to Trump, is undermining Ukraine's position in this conflict?
It is definitely stalling on Putin's part, and it is wasting time, so to speak. It doesn't necessarily change anything on the battlefield, which is Ukraine has made a dent and a significant one in Russia's refining capacity. It is imposing energy sanctions, if you will, through drones. And so whatever talks happen in Budapest between Trump and Putin, the fact is that the battlefield situation is right now with slight Ukrainian momentum rather than Russian one.
Do you think Trump will give Zelenskyy the Tomahawk missiles that he says he really needs?
It looks like, I mean, I think we don't know. It's possible he might, but it looks like he won't. It looks like he really does believe that he can use the threat of sending the missiles as a way to bring Putin to the negotiating table. It doesn't seem that that will work. He already threatened really serious consequences several times in the last 9 months. He will have to actually deliver an actual step in order to change Putin's calculus. But it seems to me that he believes only the threat would be sufficient.
Okay. So at the end of the day, Donald Trump says that he's solved all these conflicts all over the world, and that this would be the last one on his checklist, that he wants this war to end. Do you think that we are any closer to that actually happening?
Not at all. Neither the battlefield situation does not point to an end. Putin has repeated steadily for the past 9 months that he wants to achieve all his goals, which suggests that he's not willing to negotiate and compromise. So Ukraine has no other option but to continue pressing, and so there's no end in sight. No.
All right, Maria, thank you very much. Always good to talk to you. Maria Popova is an associate professor of political science at McGill University. We're taking you now to Edmonton, where the president of Alberta's Teachers Union is now speaking. This is the province's 51,000 public, Catholic, and Francophone school teachers continue to strike. Negotiations between the province and union broke down more than a month ago, and now teachers are braced to be forced back to work when the next session of the legislature resumes.
And good morning, everyone. The ATA remains committed to achieving a fair, negotiated agreement through the bargaining process. We've presented a balanced and solutions-focused proposal that directly addresses the urgent challenges in Alberta's classrooms. Yesterday, the Alberta Teachers Association received a letter from the Government of Alberta with a request that teachers return to their classrooms on October 20th, and that an enhanced mediation be undertaken to arrive at a settlement. The letter included a statement that student-teacher ratios could not be included as part of the mediation process, and this limitation undermines any attempt at resolution. TIBA has declined to respond to the association's latest tabled position, choosing instead to propose a process that is biased and designed to return an outcome entirely favorable to the government and school boards, not to students or teachers. However, we expect government to acknowledge these realities that are driving this dispute and come to the table willing to consider meaningful and specific solutions to class size and complexity. Let me be clear, the ATA is ready to bargain. We're ready today, tomorrow, and every day that follows to negotiate the real issues at the heart of this dispute. We're ready to discuss solutions that will make classrooms manageable, improve supports for students with complex needs, and ensure that teachers can teach and students can learn. TIBA, representing all 61 public, Catholic, Francophone school boards and government, have made it clear it will not consider any meaningful discussion regarding student-teacher ratios or a concrete and accountable response to class complexity within teachers' collective agreements. In the face of such inflexibility, teachers have no choice but to continue strike action. Alberta's students cannot thrive in overcrowded classrooms with insufficient supports, and teachers cannot continue to absorb the impact of years of chronic underfunding. We can no longer afford to kick this issue down the road. The concerns teachers have expressed are driven by what they, their students, and parents are facing every day in Alberta's classrooms. The stark reality is that Alberta has the largest class sizes of any province in Canada while spending the least on its students. Teachers, students, and parents know this. When will government and school boards admit that there is a crisis in education? The letter the association received states that it is unacceptable state of affairs that more than 700,000 students are not in school. Alberta's teachers, who are bearing the financial and emotional burden of this strike and lockout most directly, are fully aware of the impact of this job action and on the students that are affected and the families as well. Teachers very much wish to return to their classrooms. However, they cannot do so without
Teachers Association president saying the union is ready to bargain, but they are calling the government inflexible and that the teachers' union strike will continue because of chronic underfunding and large class sizes. Let's go live to Washington, where U.S. President Donald Trump is about to welcome Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the White House. In recent days, Trump has signaled he's considering arming Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles in its war against Russia. But just yesterday, Trump spoke by phone with Vladimir Putin, saying the Russian president, quote, didn't like the idea. The war is now in its fourth year, and diplomatic efforts have stalled as Russia steps up strikes on Ukrainian energy facilities. And the CBC's Katie Nicholson has been tracking today's visit and joins me now. And so, Katie, one of the questions that we were trying to figure out, I wonder if we know more, is the meeting that is happening between Trump and Zelenskyy that's about to happen. We're going to see them shake hands in a moment, but we don't expect there to be the Oval Office, the yellow chairs, one of those sit-downs, right? They're going to have a working lunch.
And right now they are supposed to go into the cabinet room and sort of work through a number of these issues, have these discussions. But, you know, we're often told these things and something completely different happens and suddenly the press pool is ushered into another room and we're into a press conference. So,
right. So we have no idea, but we don't expect it to be an Oval Office sit-down, but it could be in another room and where the press pool is invited in, and we could hear some comments from both presidents.
Yes. So, I mean, again,
who knows?
You know, it's expect the unexpected. But I think people are being fairly conservative about this visit right now as well. And certainly a lot of, I would suggest, eyes in Europe very nervously watching how this rolls through. He's doing this without the backup this time of a number of European leaders who came in sort of solidarity back in August. And so this is much more focused and much more personal between Zelenskyy and Trump. These two men who have sort of had a bit of a checkered past, a bit of a sort of their relationship has not been easy. And so even though there has been a thawing, it'll be interesting to see how this moves forward. You know, there has been more grudging respect from President Trump towards Zelenskyy as well over the last couple of months. And you sort of see a bit of that turn, right? And he's continued to say, and this was before the phone call with Vladimir Putin, he's sort of heaped certain slights on Russia, saying things like, well, it was an easy war and Putin should have won it early on, suggesting that Putin was a paper tiger, that sort of thing. And those moments, those suggestions do suggest, you know, that souring on Russia, the frustration with Russia, and they're happening concurrently over the months with a grudging respect for what Zelenskyy has managed to do. And certainly I think a lot of the European Union, the NATO allies have helped open Trump's eyes to a little bit more of what's been going on within Ukraine and some of the sort of the military, I guess, the military, the ways in which they have been able to sort of flip the script and surprise Putin. And I just think back to that moment back in February when Donald Trump says to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, you don't have the cards. And then that sort of jaw-dropping drone attack happened. And it's moments like that that I think have also captured the president's attention and, again, garnered more of that grudging respect for Zelenskyy.
Interesting. Okay. And you think back just to this president's desire to end wars, right? That's what he says here. He said, I want to end all these conflicts. He said he's ended 6, 7, or 8. Now this would be the 9th, and then we're kind of done with the major conflicts in the world. And it was just on Monday that he was in Sharm el-Sheikh at this peace summit, right? But if you think about the leverage that Trump has on Israel versus the leverage that Trump has on Russia, it's not the same.
No, and those are completely different conflicts, completely different players. Those sort of the same sort of inroads that Trump and his extended family had with Israel. I think about Jared Kushner, who played such an instrumental role in brokering the deal in the Middle East. His father goes way back with Netanyahu and like Charles Kushner, and he was sort of a donor to some of his political efforts. There were ties there. It was a very different calculation. And there, it is, even though Steve Witkoff, the same envoy who was very involved in the Middle East, is going back and forth and spending reportedly very long periods of time sitting with Putin in Moscow. It isn't the same at all. And a lot of the same players are still trying to exert force, are still trying to have these diplomatic talks. But no, it's quite a different calculation.
And so, Katie, what we expect it to be is a working lunch in the cabinet room. So that's what we expect this to be, a little meet and greet outside of the White House. And then we expect it to be a working lunch in the cabinet room. It sure will be interesting to see whether or not cameras are allowed in, at least at the beginning of that lunch. And that's sometimes what could happen.
Yes. Yeah. Again, we don't know, but we will. Whatever happens in here, there will be. People are positioned outside. There will be a full reporting of what happened, and it's just a question of how long this meeting is going to be. The president is expected to fly to Mar-a-Lago later today, so it won't be that long. But I think one of the things to really watch is its date to time. How long is he in there? I think about how brief that meeting in February was. This one may be very targeted. There are specific things. There's a specific ask on the table, right? The tomahawks. And so, do they get right to it and the nuts and bolts? Or is Donald Trump going to now push more for a role of mediator, particularly in line with a view of going to Budapest and having this meeting with Putin, presumably in the next week or two. We don't have actual concrete dates on that yet.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of hear some of the language of Trump towards Putin, the language around Zelenskyy. It's sort of hard to get a really good sense of how he's trying to kind of have this war come to an end. And
it shifts, right? Yeah. And it shifts. But right now, mediation, wearing this sort of role of the mediator, that did well for him last week. He's riding high on that. You could see him wanting to take this ball and run with it with this conflict as well.
We'll see. All right, Katie, thank you. CBC's Katie Nicholson as we continue to watch for this moment, and we'll come back to you soon. The federal government has been outlining its plans to strengthen border security. The public safety minister is in the Niagara region today along Ontario's border with New York. Gary Anandasangari says today's announcement aligns with promises the government has made to Canadians.
During the election campaign, we were clear that our borders had to be secure so everyone in Canada can feel safe, and we promised to hire 1,000 new CBSA officers to bolster our border protection efforts. Today, we're announcing that we will fund those positions as well as other important enhancements that will help CBSA officers do their jobs more effectively. We will spend $617.7 million over 5 years to train, hire, and deploy 1,000 CBSA officers.
Meanwhile, the Canada Border Services Agency is reporting an outage to some inspection kiosks. It says it is due to maintenance work and it's impacting some Canadian airports. The CBSA adds it is working on fixing the issue. Toronto's Pearson International Airport is warning the outage is having an impact and cautions passengers that they may face longer than normal wait times at customs. The Public Safety Minister addressed the outage last hour.
I met with the president and asked her to report back within 30 days on some of the challenges that we've been facing recently. But I can assure Canadians that our systems work effectively. Of course, there may be at times some outages, and as soon as we find out, we make every effort to fix it within an expedited timeline.
The president of the CBSA says it's unacceptable when systems go down, but there are contingency plans in place for when they do.
They're tied it up now.
Let's go Blue Jays!
For the second straight night, the Toronto Blue Jays crushed the Mariners in Seattle to tie up the American League Championship Series at 2 games apiece. We'll cap the high-octane game just ahead here on CBC News Network.
just a regular Friday at the White House, just ahead of this big meeting.
Okay, that's an interesting tidbit. Katie, thank you. CBC's Katie Nicholson. The Toronto Blue Jays are now just 2 wins away from a World Series appearance. Last night, they beat the Seattle Mariners on the road yet again to tie up the American League Championship Series, thanks in part to a passionate performer from starting pitcher Max Scherzer.
He got him! Rosarena waves at a curveball. Scherzer strikes him out. And how about 41-year-old Max Scherzer tonight, giving the Blue Jays 5 innings, allowing just 1 run.
Scherzer was definitely on fire on the mound, even showing a little extra heat when Jays skipper John Schneider jogged over in the 5th inning. Scherzer demands to stay in it, and that's good with Schneider. The final score, 8-2 for the Jays. And there's no doubt Toronto fans are pumped about the Jays' comeback in this series. And the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick is outside the Rogers Centre with that part of this story. And Megan, tell us about what you're hearing from fans.
Well, I'm hearing that they're a little tired today, Andrew, after staying up late to watch the game. But of course, that lost sleep was worth it because of the win. So fans a little tired, but saying they're relieved that the Jays have now evened up this series, and they're excited for tonight's game. And they're very excited to welcome the Jays back home here to Toronto for Game 6 that'll be played here at the Rogers Centre on Sunday. One fan admitting he was a little discouraged after they lost those first 2 games, but he says his faith and confidence in the team now restored. And a lot of fans talking about some of their favorite players and their performances last night, in particular pitcher Max Scherzer, and a lot of fans buzzing about that standout moment between Scherzer and manager John Schneider when he went to the mound. And Scherzer showed his passion and, made it clear that he was not going anywhere and did not want to get off that mound. Fans talking about that, one fan describing that as vintage Max. Here's what else I'm hearing from fans.
I'm excited. Last night's game was great, a little tired, but really rallying for tonight. People are wearing jerseys all over the street. It's bringing a lot of fun and excitement back to the city, and it's so great to see a sea of blue.
Had to work early this morning, put the kids to bed, so I did not get to watch last night, but will be watching tonight.
Feeling great, a little tired staying up late to watch the game, but yeah, excited to bring it back to Toronto after one more. Vladdy's got to be my favorite, and I got 2 young girls and they love him too, so yeah, family favorite in our house.
Pretty pumped, being down 2-0 in any kind of playoff series is pretty tough to come back from. Everybody's just pumping on all cylinders. Scherzer had a heck of a game.
And Andrew, it really didn't take us very long to find Jays fans. There are a lot of people walking around downtown Toronto today wearing hats and jerseys and sweatshirts, showing their team pride. And some of these Toronto fans giving a shout out to the Jays fans who have been in Seattle for the past 2 games, making the trip across the border and cheering the team on. CBC spoke to 2 of those Canadian fans who drove to Seattle for the game, Eric and Rebecca Livingstone, who talked about what the experience has been like being in enemy territory. Here's a bit more of what they shared.
We thought we wanted to go watch the Jays play in Rogers Centre, but we're finding that it's actually more exciting to watch them in enemy territory. Everybody has been really, really friendly, really gracious. We're one of the few that walk around Seattle, advertising that we're Blue Jays fans, and people are saying, "Oh, you're brave."
I saw a video on social media, Andrew, of some of those Jays fans leaving the baseball stadium last night and singing "O Canada" on their way out. So lots of enthusiasm for the team, kind of across the country, not just here in Toronto. The Jays have been referred to as Canada's team. We've been hearing from some viewers today who've been sending in photos showing their Jays pride and how people in their households are celebrating. And I can tell you here at the Rogers Centre, the Jays shop, which sells team merchandise, has been very busy today. And again, there's a lot of Torontonians who are excited to welcome the team back here on Sunday.
They sure are. Megan, thank you. CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick live outside the Rogers Centre in Toronto. Let's go back to Washington, where U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy are meeting.
President Zelenskyy of Ukraine has has endured a lot. I mean, he really has. He's endured a lot, and we've endured it with him. To be honest, it's been a long time, and I think we're making great progress. So we're going to be talking about that today. We'll be talking about what took place yesterday with my phone call with President Putin, and I think that things are coming along pretty well. It began with Alaska, where I think certain guidelines were discussed, and we want to see if we can get this done. This was long ago into the Biden administration. I came here and we inherited this, and we'd like to see if we could finish it, end it. We want it ended. So many people have died in this war, and we're gonna get it ended. So I just want to thank you all very much. If you have a couple of questions, go ahead, please. In fact, before I do that, let me just ask the President to say a few words. Thank you, President.
Pleasure. Glad to meet you again, Mr. President. Thank you very much for the invitation. Again, my congratulations with your successful ceasefire in the Middle East.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you did it, and I think this is the momentum to finish Russia's war against Ukraine. I think that, yes, we understand that Putin is not ready. I think not ready, but I think that I'm confident that with your help we can stop this war, and we really need it. We see that they don't have successful steps on the battlefield, and it's good. I think that their army is weak now, but a lot of losses. Good. I think that their army is weak now, but a lot of losses. They have a lot of losses, and in economy and people, and I think this is very important moment. And I wanted to thank you, Mr. President, after our phone calls. Yesterday I had a good opportunity to meet with the big American energy companies, and they're ready to help us. Yes, after all these attacks on our infrastructure, Russian attacks, and etc. And I had also meetings, thanks to your team. We had meetings with a good military companies. We spoke about air defense, and I want to share it after with details where we are. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Very good. And I think it looks beautiful in his jacket.
Yeah?
It's beautiful. I hope people notice. It's a good. It's actually very stylish. I like it.
President Trump.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Under the Biden administration, the White House was fearing of a possible escalation. They were not allowing the Ukrainians to strike into Russia. Allow Ukrainians to strike deep into Russia.
We're going to be talking about that. That's something we'll be talking about. You're right. It's an escalation, but we'll be talking about that.
Mr. President. Mr. President Zelenskyy joined you in Hungary to meet President Putin.
Because it's a leader that we like. We like Viktor Orban. He likes him. I like him. It's a country that's a safe country. Done a very good job. He's been a very good leader in the sense of running his country. He doesn't have a lot of the problems that other countries have. And so we've decided that we'll be going to be with Viktor Orban, and he will, I think he'll be a very good host.
President Trump. President Trump. President Trump. Right here.
It's
President Trump.
Hungary, yeah. We're doing Hungary, yeah.
With Putin. Trilateral meeting, or is it just you and Putin?
To be determined, but I would say most likely it's going to be a double meeting. It'll be a double meeting, but we will have the President, Zelenskyy, in touch. There's a lot of bad blood with the two presidents, and I'm not speaking out of turn when I say it. It's a very difficult situation. You know, we just settled the war, and after thousands of years, I guess. People say anywhere from 500 to 3,000 years, and I was in rooms, as you saw, because you were with me, a lot of you were with me last week, with leaders that didn't like each other, but they were able to get along. These two leaders do not like each other, and we want to make it comfortable for everybody. So one way or the other, we'll be involved in threes, but it may be separated.
President Trump. Mr. President. President Trump.
Was he what? Where are you from?
From Ukraine. He actually had a
Okay, good.
conversation with me
Good, yeah.
today. What if Mr. President Putin doesn't agree to peace in Hungary? What do you do then? Do you have?
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, you know, what if? I think he will. I think that President Putin wants to end the war, or I wouldn't be talking this way. I think he wants to end the war. I spoke to him yesterday for 2.5 hours. We went through a lot of details. He wants to get it ended. I think that President Zelenskyy wants to get it ended. Now we have to get it done.
President Trump, Kara Castronova from Lindell TV. And although I love asking you questions, today my question is for President Zelenskyy of
Sure.
Ukraine.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Our President Zelenskyy, President Trump, just brokered a peace deal in the Middle East that all Americans, both sides of the aisle, are very proud of. But to meet that deal, both sides had to make concessions. Our president has stuck out his neck in many ways to make a peace deal for your war as well. What specific concessions are you willing to make to end this war with Russia? Will you give up joining NATO? Americans have foreign war fatigue, and our president, as he said, we need our tomahawks too.
To me.
Yes, you, President Zelenskyy.
Thank you very much.
That's some question. Right?
So many questions in one. Thank you very much for your question. First of all, I think we need to sit and speak. The second point, we need ceasefire. Even now, you see in the Middle East, it's very difficult to hold ceasefire. Everywhere, in every war, it's very difficult. We want peace. Putin doesn't want. That's why we need pressure on him. We will speak with President today what we need. We understand what we need to push Putin to negotiation table. And as I said previously, so we are ready to speak in any kind of format, bilateral, trilateral, doesn't matter. Matter just peace. This is important. And we don't speak about NATO or NATO. For Ukrainians, it's very important. It's our decision, decisions of allies to decide where we are.
But are you willing to give
Yes,
up
but
joining
the
NATO?
most important thing for people in Ukraine which are under each day's attacks, to have really strong security guarantees. NATO is the best, but weapon is very important. Allies on our side is very important. And between us, for us, bilateral security guarantees between me and President Trump is very important. I don't know, we didn't speak with details about it, but this is the most important document because the United States is very strong.
Sir, President Trump, you are the middleman right now, hoping to end this conflict. Who is doing a better job negotiating, President Zelenskyy or President Putin?
I think they're both doing a great job in that sense. We have to get it done. We've got to take some of the hatred of each other. You know, they don't like each other. I say that in front of President Zelenskyy, but I say it in front of President Putin too. They have tremendous bad blood. It really is what is holding up, I think, a settlement. I think we're going to get it done, and we have to make it long-lasting. As I said in the Middle East, everlasting, right? Everlasting. And the Middle East is a much more complicated situation. You know, we had 59 countries involved, and every one of them agreed. And it's, you know, it's sort of amazing. Most people didn't think that was doable. This is going to be something I really believe that's going to get done. I had a very good talk yesterday with President Putin. I think he wants to get it done.
And President Zelenskyy, right behind you. When we were in Israel with President Trump earlier in the week, we heard a lot about the difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Joe Biden before him. What do you see as the biggest difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Biden?
President Trump has a big chance now to finish this war. President Biden now is not the president, so he doesn't have a chance to finish this war. And President Trump is really showed for the world that he can manage ceasefire in the Middle East, and that's why I hope that he will do this, and we will also have such big success. For Ukraine, it's a big chance, and I hope that President Trump can manage it.
I would say the biggest difference, extremely competent, and the other one is grossly incompetent.
Sir, a few weeks ago in New York, when you two met, you said that you think Ukraine could ultimately take back all the territory that it's lost so far. Do you still think that's the case, or do you think there'll have to be some sort of
You
swap
never
of
know.
territories?
Look, you know, war is very interesting. You never know, do you? You just never know. With war and peace, but you never know. Please.
Russia calls Tomahawk supply to Ukraine as an escalation, yet it continues using similar cruise missiles like Caliber and
Yeah.
even...
Who are you with? Who are you with? You're Ukraine?
Yes.
Good.
But Russia continue even using the cruise missiles and also nuclear-capable ballistic missiles in Ukraine since 2022. So do you consider providing Ukraine with the Tomahawk or similar missiles as an opportunity to equalize the possibilities of Ukraine and Russia and push Moscow to the negotiation
Yeah.
table?
Sure. We're going to be talking about that. That's why we're here. Okay? Fair question. Exactly as he told you to say it. But we're going to be talking about it. Okay? Yeah, please.
Message to India and Hungary, who is still refusing.
You said India and Hungary? That's an interesting. India and Hungary. It's an interesting combination. Huh?
Refuse to stop buying Russian oil.
Well, India is not going to be buying Russian oil anymore. And Hungary is sort of stuck because they have one pipeline that's been there for years and years and years, and they're inland. They don't have sea. They don't have sea. And I spoke with the very great leader of Hungary, and they are, you know, it's very hard for them to get oil. I understand it. Hungary's in a very interesting position because they can't have ports. You know, they're surrounded by land. So we'll see what happens there. But India will not be buying oil from Russia. And, they've already de-escalated, and they've more or less stopped. They're pulling back. They bought about 38% of the oil, and they won't be doing it anymore.
Mr. President Trump has been helping you in achieving peace in Ukraine.
Who has?
First Lady Melania Trump
Yeah.
has been helping in returning abducted Ukrainian children from Russian captivity. President Zelensky, do you appreciate those efforts? How do you assess them? And did you ask her to step in and to help you?
No, she wanted to do it. She just felt very strongly about the children, and she's done a really good job, I think, in bringing it to the fore. You know, we have a lot of children involved. Now, it's some people say it's 20,000, and some people say it's 300. There's a big difference between that, so nobody really knows. But she felt very strongly about the children. She thinks about the children all the time.
President Trump, if you okay Tomahawks to Ukraine, what's going to happen if the United States is in a conflict and we need the Tomahawks? Do we have enough?
That's a problem. We need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other things that we've been sending over the last 4 years to Ukraine. We've been, you know, we gave them a lot. Now we have a different situation. We send it to the European Union. They pay for it and all that, and they have plenty of money. But it's beyond the money. You know, we need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other weapons that we're sending to Ukraine. And one of the reasons we want to get this war over is exactly that. It's not easy for us to give. You're talking about massive numbers of very powerful weapons. So that's one of the things we'll be talking about. Hopefully they won't need it. Hopefully we'll be able to get the war over with without thinking about Tomahawks. I think we're fairly close to that. Yeah, go ahead.
President,
yeah, please.
Just to understand. So for today, of course, we want to finish this war, but the war is another technological war. You don't use just Tomahawks. If you want to target a military goal, you need thousands of drones. It goes together with such missiles. Ukraine has such thousands of our production drones, but we don't have Tomahawks. That's why we need Tomahawks. But United States is a very strong production, and the United States has Tomahawks and other missiles, very strong missiles, but they can have our thousands of drones. That's why where we can work together, where we can strengthen American production.
And so just so that I understand, so you're suggesting kind of a trade
if President Trump okays Tomahawk missiles to help you launch
Yes,
these
it's
into
about
Russia,
military goals. It's
you
only
would
about military goals.
Right, but then you would authorize some kind of an exchange where
Yes, of course.
the U.S. gets
Yes, we have
Ukrainian-
proposition. Yeah,
And
we have big proposition
President-
with our drones.
President
Yeah.
Trump, I don't mean to be brokering an arms deal here, but is that something that you would be interested in, Ukrainian drones?
Yeah, we would. We have a lot of drones right now. We build our own drones, but we also buy drones from others, and they make a very good drone. I mean, drone warfare has really come to the fore over the last couple of years because of this war. I will say, there's nothing like the jets. You know, we knocked out a lot of drones in Israel. We were knocking them out for Israel, and we were doing it with extremely fast and powerful jets, following the drones and knocking the hell out of them. So, it's, you know, we know a lot about the drones, and we know a lot about the great jets, the great ones. The ones, well, and the B-52s, which were totally they were stealth. They were undetectable. So we have a lot of different weapons. And, you know, I have an obligation also, though, to make sure that we're completely stocked up as a country, because you never know what's going to happen. In war and peace, right? You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to be talking about Tomahawks, and would much rather have them not need Tomahawks. Would much rather have the war be over, to be honest, because, you know, we're in it to get the war over. We're selling a lot of different types of weapon, as you know, to the European Union. We're not in it for that. We're in it to get it over. We're losing thousands of people a week, thousands of people, Russian, Ukrainian, and mostly soldiers. I mean, mostly soldiers. But we're in it to see that end. And if we can end quickly, and I think we can. I mean, I had a very good talk yesterday. We're going to be talking about it. But I had a very productive talk yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. But the war in the Middle East was far more complicated. We got that one done. And I think we have a good chance. I think President Zelenskyy wants it done, and I think President Putin wants it done. Now all they have to do is get along a little bit.
Can you give us an update on the trade negotiations with China, or perhaps Secretary Bessent?
Yeah, I will, and I'm going to let Scott do that. But I think we're doing very well. I think we're getting along with China. China would like to have something. As of this moment, we'll be meeting in a couple of weeks. We'll be meeting in South Korea.
You think
myself.
will go forward?
I think so. It looks like it's going forward. I think so. They want to meet. We like to meet. I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and we're going to see what happens. But, you know, for years we were taken advantage of by China very badly. We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars a year to China. We really built their military, if you think about it. The kind of money that presidents allowed to be lost to China was just insane. And then when I came into office, as you know, I put very severe tariffs. So we took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my first term from China. Biden let that go because it was so much. He let it continue, but he gave all sorts of exceptions. And by the time you looked at it, Scott, I would say it wasn't the same thing. He would give an exception for anything. If you got up and went out to dinner, he'd give you an exception. So it wasn't the same thing. But I put on very serious tariffs. So we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. And then I left office. The election was rigged. I left office, and that was the story. Now I come back, and we are in a very strong position because of tariffs. We're in a very powerful position because of the fact that we have tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be in a very weak position. We would be in a weakened state. But with tariffs, we've made hundreds of billions of dollars, not only from China, but from others. And China wants to talk, and we like talking to China. So we have a very good relationship, and we're going to be meeting in South Korea a couple of weeks. And I just got back from a long trip. I'm going on another long trip. And, Scott, do you want to say a few words on that, please?
Yes, sir. So the entire relationship stems from the great respect that the two leaders have for each other. China did a substantial, unprovoked escalation last week. We were unable to get in touch with them. Since then, it's been IMF World Bank Week. They have had working level people here who there have been meetings. The Vice Premier, who is my counterpart, and I will be speaking this evening at around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then he and I and a delegation will meet in Malaysia probably a week from tomorrow to prepare for the two presidents to meet. So I think that things have de-escalated. We hope that China will show the respect that we have shown them. And I am confident that President Trump, because of his relationship with President Xi, will be able to get things back on a good course.
Is the hope for that meeting with you and President Xi some kind of trade deal then, or
Could be.
more?
Look, I think we're in a very strong
differentiation?
position. I think we're in a very strong position. We're getting, as you know, as of November 1st, I could move it up if I wanted, a 100% tariff over and above what we get now. So that would make it about 157%. And China doesn't want that, and they want to talk, and we're talking. And I think we'll make a deal that will be good for both. I think we will do something. But you have to understand, we never got anything from China. It was a one-way street. For many years, for decades, it was a one-way street. And they became rich because of the United States. And frankly, presidents that, let's be nice, they didn't know. They just didn't know. They didn't understand what was happening to them. But I understood it. I understood it long before I ran for politics. I used to watch in amazement at how stupid our country was, how stupid they were. And we're not stupid anymore. And that includes with the European Union. That includes with Japan and South Korea. All we want to do is be treated fairly. But the fairly is hundreds of billions and even trillions of dollars coming into the United States. And it's our national security is secure because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would have no national security. So it's very important.
Will you seek China's help in ending the war in Ukraine? Do you need them to put pressure on Russia?
I'll be discussing that, but I'd love to see it ended before that. I mean, I think we have a chance of ending the war quickly if flexibility is shown on behalf. And again, we're not losing people. The United States is not. We're not losing people. We're not spending money. We're getting paid for the, ammunition and missiles and everything else that we're sending to the European Union, but to NATO. But it's very similar. If you look at the countries, I mean, it's very similar. And we just made a very fair trade deal with the European Union, and what we wanted, and we made a very good deal with NATO too. They pay for all of this. That's not what we're in this for. We're in it to save thousands of lives every week. Thousands and thousands of lives. That's why we're in it. And I think we have a very good chance of bringing this war to a conclusion.
Europe's president and your cabinet has done honestly an excellent job. I think that a lot of people could agree to that.
Thank you.
I'm speaking as someone who lost my father in a war, so I know the human cost. What would your advice be to American leaders, to world leaders, to neocons, to TV hosts who often speak about conflict in abstract or strategic terms rather than the human cost and the human terms?
Look, my only statement is we have to get together. It's a very small group of people. It's the president, and the president. Okay, 3 presidents. And I'm the mediator president. And I'm mediating not an easy situation. It should be easy, but it's a lot easier when people understand each other, and when they get together, and when they like each other. We don't necessarily have that situation as far as like is concerned. Maybe it can turn around. Maybe it can. But in the meantime, we'll have them keep a little bit of distance, and we're going to see if we can get it done. This is number 9, okay? This will be number 9 for me. I've solved 8, including the Middle East. I've solved 8. This, I thought, would have been among the easiest. We solved, President Putin mentioned yesterday Armenia, all of the different wars. He said it was amazing because but the big one that he was surprised that we were able to settle was the Middle East. He thought it was incredible. He was very generous in that sense. This should be something we're able to settle, and I think we will be able to settle.
Brian? Sir, on that note, you will go down as the peacemaker, no doubt, and you will resolve this war.
Well, we resolved 8 others. It's funny how people say that. If you get this one, every time I do one, they forget about that one. I solved 8 wars. Go to Rwanda and the Congo, talk about India and Pakistan, look at Thailand, look at all of the wars that we solved. And every time I solve one, they say, if you solve the next one, you're going to get the Nobel Prize. I didn't get a Nobel Prize. Somebody got it who's a very nice woman, very nice. I don't know who she is, but she was very generous. So I don't care about all that stuff. I just care about saving lives. But this will be number 9. But every time I solve one, they said, sir, if you solve one more, you're going to be known as a peacekeeper. So to the best of my knowledge, we've never had a president that solved one war. Not one war. Bush started a war. A lot of them start wars, but they don't solve the wars. They don't settle them. And especially when they have nothing to do with us. I saw almost, I guess, just about all of these wars had nothing to do with us. But I saved tens of millions of lives. The Prime Minister of Pakistan said, I saved millions of lives in interceding on Pakistan, and you look at Pakistan and India as an example. That would have been a bad one, 2 nuclear nations, right? So I say this, this is pretty much the last one, although I do understand that Pakistan attacked, or there is an attack going on with Afghanistan. That's an easy one for me to solve if I have to solve it. In the meantime, I have to run the USA, but I love solving wars. You know why? I like stopping people from being killed, and I've saved millions and millions of lives, and I think we're going to have success with this war. Wait, please.
This, President Zelensky, this is your 3rd time over here.
Oh.
And by the way, you look excellent.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
For you, by the way. This is your 3rd time here. How different sitting across from the president is this time versus the two previous times here at the White House, and how confident are you hearing the success rate of solving these prior wars that he can get this war solved?
First of all, about suit. The same suit because the same president. It's very simple. The next president will have another suit. Yes, about our relations with President Trump, I think we have important dialogues, and I think we begin to understand each other. Yes, and I know that President is briefed very well about situation in the battlefield, and he knows a lot what's going on the battlefield in Ukraine, and I think it really helps. When you know a lot of things, a lot of details about one or another war, it helps a lot. But we are still in war, and I hope we can manage.
You are being clear that there are some countries that are not meeting their commitment. You pointed out Spain. They said that
it's not come through. No, Spain has not been loyal to NATO. Spain has been. They're the only one. Everyone went up to, as you know, I mean, you were at 2% and they all went up to 5%, but Spain disagreed with that. I think Spain should be reprimanded for that. I think it's very bad that they did that, but that's up to them. That's up to NATO and Spain.
They cannot be expelled from NATO.
Can they or not?
They cannot, according to the treaty, but they also claim that they are protected by the European Union umbrella for trade.
Well, the other people, many of the other countries are in the European Union too. They're not complaining, right?
President, tell you that Putin is serious.
That's of interest.
Mr.
They're protected. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do you think you can carry the momentum from the Middle East deal over to this deal? And if
I do.
So, how does that move the needle?
Yeah, I do. I think we carry a lot of momentum, a lot of credibility. Getting Middle East done was very important. Nobody thought it could be done. That was one nobody thought could be done, and we got it done. And a lot of that was the big hit that we put on Iran with respect to the nuclear. They took that was an unbelievable military maneuver, the B-2s, and many other planes involved, by the way, but the B-2s. Yeah, I think nobody expected that to happen, and you know we had 59 countries involved, and these were countries very diverse. You had Arab, Muslim, Jewish. You had every country, Christian. You had every country, many countries involved, and we got that done. And we got it done pretty swiftly after we after we set the table properly. We had to set the table properly. This should be one that we get done. And I think the table is set properly here now, too. And it'll be a great honor. It'll be a great honor to get it done. And the Ukrainian people are great, and the Russian people are great. And obviously they have much in common, as we understand. They have a lot in common. So it'll be a great honor to get it done.
On Venezuela, there are survivors from your latest boat strike. What happens to those survivors?
Well, I'll ask Marco to discuss that possibly.
Yeah, it's well known there's an ongoing narco-terrorist operation the United States has been conducting. As far as details of any recent strikes, we're not prepared here to announce all those details, but you'll get that information here very shortly.
And how are there survivors when these are meant to be lethal attacks?
Yeah, again, I mean, we're undertaking these operations against narco-terrorists. That's what these are. These are terrorists. Let's be clear. And but as far as the details of any recent operations, when we are prepared to announce those, we will, as the president has consistently done. So you may get something on that later today.
Let me ask you, that was in a submarine, right? It was. We attacked a submarine, and that was a drug-carrying submarine built specifically for the transportation of massive amounts of drugs. Just so you understand, this was not an innocent group of people. I don't know too many people that have submarines, and that was an attack on a drug-carrying, loaded-up submarine. Yeah.
On Putin, is it your belief, as Mr. Zelensky said yesterday, that the threat of tomahawks and costs, as Secretary Hicks had put it, is that bringing him to the table, the fact that it's kind of a carrot and stick?
I don't know what's bringing him to I think he wants to make a deal, that's all. I can't tell you what's bringing him. Sure, that's the threat of that is good, but the threat of that is always there. Tomahawks are very dangerous weapons. They're incredible weapons. If you like warfare, it's one of the most accurate. You know, we hit 30 Tomahawks in Iran after the B-2s did their damage. We sort of gave it a little capper with 30 Tomahawks from a submarine, quite far away actually. But they're an amazing weapon. They're a very powerful weapon, but they're a very dangerous weapon. And it could mean big, escalation. It could mean a lot of bad things can happen. Tomahawks are a big deal. But one thing I have to say, we want Tomahawks also. We don't want to be giving away things that we need to protect our country. We have a very strong country right now. We have a strong military. We have the greatest military in the world. We have the greatest weapons in the world. I want to get this war over. Okay?
Putin-Trump tunnel to connect Russia and Alaska. Are you interested?
I just heard about it. A tunnel from Russia to Alaska. I just heard about that one. That's an interesting one. We'll have to think about that. I hadn't heard that. We just did a nice road in Alaska that's going to get us to a lot of minerals, and we have a piece of it, a good piece of the ownership because of the fact we made it possible. But this came up yesterday, a tunnel from Russia to Alaska. That's an interesting. What do you think of that, Mr. President? Do you have any ideas? How do you like that idea?
I'm not happy with this.
I don't think you're going to like it. I don't think he liked it. I don't think he liked it.
President Trump, do you think that Vladimir Putin, do you think that Putin fears?
We had a senator that wanted, remember, from Hawaii, she wanted a tunnel from the mainland to Hawaii, and she said, well, we can't do that, so we're going to build a railroad to Hawaii. Do you remember? She's a current sitting senator, a Democrat. She wants a railroad to go to Hawaii, right? You know who that is, right? She's another beauty.
President Trump,
yeah, please.
On your meeting with Putin, aren't you concerned that maybe the Russian president is trying to buy himself more time?
Yeah, I am, but, you know, I've been played all my life by the best of them, and I came out really well. So it's possible, yeah, a little time.
Is your gut instinct
it's all right. But I think that I'm pretty good at this stuff. I think that he wants to make a deal. I made 8 of them. I'm going to make a 9th. I think he wants to make a deal.
Do you still consider Russia to be a paper tiger? Do you think, judging by the state of its economy,
Well, I think that he should have won the war in a week. Yeah, I do think. And if we didn't give the anti-tank missiles, as you know, the javelins they call them, They got stuck in the mud. They would have been in Kiev very quickly. They were heading to Kiev. So, you know, in war, you have a lot of luck, too. You know, weather has won war, and the cold and the heat and all things take place in war. But that was a very interesting moment when the tanks started rolling and some brilliant general said, let's go through the mud instead of going down the highway, right? So they got a little bit lucky. But you know where they really got lucky? I gave javelins. That wasn't given by Barack Hussein Obama. He gave them sheets. You know, there's a statement. Obama gave them sheets, and I gave them the javelins. And the javelins are a devastating weapon. And that wasn't given by Obama. That was given by, because at the time it was Obama. That was given by me. So it was like one of those things. And you had hundreds of them. They're a devastating weapon. We have a lot of devastating weapons. I'd rather not use them. But that was a big moment. You know, when the tanks got stuck, they got stuck. And call it luck or call it talent. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but it was a big moment in time.
Do you think Democrats will give you credit? Do you think Democrats will give you credit when you finally end this war, like they did with the war in the Middle East? And
I think right now the Democrats are really damaged, mentally damaged. They want to take $1.5 trillion with a T, $1 trillion, and give it to people that invaded our country. They came into our country illegally, from prisons, from mental institutions, gang members. They want to give them health care and take it away from our citizens. We're not going to do that. $1.5 trillion. They want to destroy our health care system. We're not going to let that happen.
Have you authorized CIA operations in Venezuela as part of?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but some interesting things are happening around the world, I'll say that.
It's been reported, Mr. President, it has been reported that Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys. Thanks guys, let's go. Start moving. Thank you guys. Let's go. Thanks guys.
All right. Just think we heard a little expletive there from the U.S. president, but also talking with the president of Ukraine, President Zelenskyy. And basically, just to summarize this very quickly, the president says that Putin does want this war to end, but President Zelenskyy does not believe that Putin wants peace, and Zelenskyy pressing the need for tomahawks, presenting an idea of perhaps an exchange of drones, Ukrainian drones, for tomahawks from the United States, but President Trump saying hopefully that won't be necessary. We are tracking breaking news coming from the UK. Prince Andrew is set to give up all of his titles, including that of Duke of York. The CBC's Hilary Johnstone is on the story. So, Hilary, what do we know?
Andrew, these reports just breaking in the last couple of minutes. The Telegraph newspaper was the first in the United Kingdom to break this news, and now we have a statement that we can share with you from Prince Andrew, which has been released directly from Buckingham Palace. So let's go through that statement, and then we'll talk about the backstory, how it is that we have gotten here, that Prince Andrew will be no longer having that title of the Duke of York. So let's go through that statement. It says, in discussion with the King and my immediate and wider family, we have concluded the continued accusations about me distract from the work of His Majesty and the royal family. I have decided, as I always have, to put my duty to my family and my country first. I stand by my decision 5 years ago to stand back from public life. This statement goes on to say, with His Majesty's agreement, we feel I must now go a step further. I will therefore no longer use my title or the honors which have been conferred upon me. As I have said previously, I vigorously deny the accusations against me. And of course, those accusations being the ones that have followed him for a number of years now about his relationship with the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. So let's go through a little bit more about what we know at this point. Of course, all of this just breaking in the past couple of minutes. A lot of the reporting here done by the Telegraph newspaper. It's what we'll be referencing here in part as we go on. In recent days, there have been new allegations that have come to light against Prince Andrew, in particular about how long he stayed in contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he has previously said he broke off that contact. So he has long held that he did cut off contact with Jeffrey Epstein in December of 2010, but then just recently, the Telegraph newspaper has done some reporting to show that they did remain in contact over email. And of course, his relationship, the accusations that have followed him have been front and center of this for quite a while. And you'll remember that Prince Andrew already had ceased to be a working royal because of that scandal, because of that interview that he did with the BBC back in 2019. He also had already lost the use of his HRH, his Royal Highness title. Now, according to this reporting and according to this statement, he will no longer be known as the Duke of York. He will also give up his membership of the Order of the Garter, which is an order of chivalry in the United Kingdom. A couple other things to go through here. His ex-wife, Sarah, the Duchess of York, as she was previously known, will also be relinquishing her title. She will simply be known as Sarah Ferguson. It's understood that the prince's two daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, will be keeping their titles. Now, I do continue to refer to him as Prince Andrew here because he will still be known as Prince Andrew. That title is one that was given to him when he was born because he was the son of a monarch. So that is not something that he will be losing. In recent days, there have been reports that the King Charles, was considering doing something like this because of this increasing pressure and also because of new reports about his relationship with an accused Chinese spy and reporting that had come to light that he had numerous meetings with this accused Chinese spy, who is often referred to as the right-hand man of the Chinese president Xi Jinping, and that he had even invited that person to Buckingham Palace on at least one occasion. This has also been something that has been spoken about in recent days in British media. So certainly some suggestion here that there could possibly even be further revelations in the days to come, I should say. So this reporting that King Charles was possibly considering this, but in order to do this, in order to strip him of these titles, the ones that he still had, it would have required an act of parliament. And there was concern about what that could do, that could take up precious parliamentary time. So now we have this announcement coming from Prince Andrew that he has voluntarily decided to give this up in conversation with the king. There had been some suggestion in recent days, Andrew, in British media, that would be a better option, than you could avoid needing to go through the British Parliament if Prince Andrew decided to voluntarily give up these titles. So certainly we have known for years about this connection with Jeffrey Epstein, some of these allegations about his relationship with this accused Chinese spy who is very, very close to the Chinese president. More reporting on that has come to light in recent days. What is it that finally made Buckingham Palace, King Charles, the prince decide to act on all of this? Something, of course, that we'll have to continue to follow. But certainly the breaking news this hour is that Prince Andrew will be giving up his royal titles. He will no longer be known as the Duke of York. His ex-wife, who he is still very close with, will also no longer be using the Duchess of York title. Instead, she will be known as Sarah Ferguson.
All right, Hillary, thank you. The CBC's Hillary Johnstone. We've been following President Trump's meeting with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, currently underway at the White House. Zelenskyy is pressing for the U.S. to give him, his military rather, long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles, while Trump has told reporters that he believes Russia's Vladimir Putin is, quote, ready for peace. For her insight on the talks, we're joined by Maria Popova. She's an associate professor of political science at McGill University and the co-author of Russia and Ukraine, Entangled Histories, Diverging States. She joins us now live in Montreal. Maria, thank you for coming back and giving us your pre-meeting insight. And now we weren't sure how much they would speak to reporters, but it was quite lengthy. What did you make of what you heard from both President Trump and President Zelenskyy?
Well, it seems that it's a bit of a Groundhog Day. Basically, President Trump is back to the premise, as you mentioned, that Putin wants to settle this, which is contrary to what we've seen over the past 9 months. We've seen that after Trump gave Putin an off-ramp possibility, Putin did not take it. He rejected all the ceasefire suggestions, and he constantly insists that Russia will achieve all its goals. So at this point, if Trump again believes that Putin wants to settle this becomes sort of a repetition of an endless cycle. There's not going to be any progress here. And President Zelenskyy tried to sort of shift some of the conversation, but Trump comes back to the same point. And so I think in the end, this will be a fairly useless meeting.
So a useless meeting, and it was also interesting to hear what Trump had to say about Tomahawk missiles, and then Zelenskyy said, well, maybe we could do a little bit of a trade in exchange of Ukrainian-made drones for some Tomahawk missiles, but Trump didn't seem overly enthusiastic about the idea of sending Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
Yeah, he is, I think, right now stuck on this idea that he will get another opportunity to say that he solved the war. He is optimistic that this is easy, but it's because he's come back to this premise that, as he puts it, Putin wants to get it done. But the reality is, Putin wants to conquer all of Ukraine. That's what he means by getting it done. And he's not able to do it on the battlefield. So it's really a no-go situation here.
Yeah, and we should say President Zelenskyy says Putin does not want peace. So they completely have different opinions over how this is all going to end. And then the president really seemed to kind of put some blame, or a large part of the blame, you can use the words to characterize, on the bad blood. He kept coming about the bad blood between these two men, between Zelenskyy and Putin. Is that what this is about?
I mean, he has mentioned this before. It's a fairly absurd premise that the war is somehow related to some enmity between Putin and Zelenskyy. There is no such thing. It's based on Putin insisting on conquering Ukraine. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the two leaders. And Trump insisting on it is a little bit like saying, well, the problem in World War II was that Churchill and Hitler hated each other too much. I mean, it's really a fairly absurd statement to keep coming back to.
Yeah, and we should always remind our viewers that it was Russia that invaded Ukraine, and then the full-scale invasion almost 4 years ago, an independent sovereign country. I mean, that's the truth of the matter of what happened. And at the same time, Donald Trump does say, I am going to solve this. Like, I've solved all these other conflicts in the world. I will end this. So what do you make of that kind of determination by Trump?
I mean, the reality is that he can be determined all he wants, but the battlefield realities are that Russia does not want to settle. It keeps pressing. Ukraine will not surrender. It is able to defend itself successfully, so the battlefield is absolutely stalled. No one is making progress. And so it's not about what Trump believes or wants. It's what the situation on the ground suggests, and it suggests that things are stalled and there isn't really an opportunity for a breakthrough here.
He also, Zelensky also said that he needs security, U.S. security guarantee from Donald Trump. Do you think he came anywhere in terms of getting that, or could come anywhere in terms of getting that?
I mean, it's important, but we're not even at that point because there is no signal whatsoever from the Russian side that they're ready to negotiate any settlement. So security guarantees are part of the discussion for what happens after a settlement, but we're not even close to an actual realistic, meaningful proposition for a settlement.
And, you know, Trump was asked by a reporter, do you think Putin is playing you? Like, are you being played? And then Trump acknowledged that, yeah, maybe. I mean, what did you think of that?
I mean, I think he has seen that they've had this discussion for 9 months now, where Putin always says, yes, I'm ready to talk, but in the end, he seems to run circles around Trump and has not accepted any of the suggestions that Trump had. So I think he's really quite focused on the idea that he's a peacemaker and he wants this under his belt. He doesn't right now have a clear idea of how he can achieve it. He thinks he can achieve it through putting Zelensky and Putin together in a room, but that solves absolutely nothing because, again, the battlefield realities do not suggest the upper hand for either side.
Maria, always great to get your important insight. Thank you, Maria Popova, as an associate professor of political science at McGill University.